Yeah, so the session is recording. So we shall be discussing HTML and CSS, but you'll be like, we already in JavaScript. Why are we discussing HTML? Yeah, we are discussing this because it is the mother of front end. For example, even if you know this JavaScript, you know what, and you can't, come up with a good interface that your client would love, it will be of no use. Yes, the interface and the logic work together. You can't come up with good interfaces without the logic of JavaScript, but at least, that's why when they are recruiting front-end developers, they tell them if you have an eye of design, then, you can translate the design. If, for example, the design that would have been designed by the Figma team or the designing team into code. So it is a big thing knowing how to translate that design into code, and then having that touch of colors, because sometimes you might sit on a project and they have not specified for you what colors to use. Someone just comes and they tell you, I want you to design for me a blog of a school or this website that does this and that, and then they have not told you or given you an in-depth thing of doing things. So we are going to share concepts or things that help us do that. Also to the people that are new to this thing, then to the people that are suffering with coming up with at least their first front-end mentor challenge. Yeah, we shall be covering Flexbox in particular. I'll be using that. Writing clean code, I'll be showing you how to write clean code and how VS Code can help us, write the clean code. Troubleshooting, I'll be showing you the simple troubleshooting things, or methods. Then thinking, you have to think, like when you look at the project, you have to think, and then that critical thinking before you start, coding. Most people I've seen in the front end meta challenges, most people, when they get this project, boom, they jump into VS Code, they open that code into VS Code, then they start coding. No, like if you want to pull it off and save a lot of time, that's why you see some memes that say 80% that coding takes 20%. The 80% is this critical thinking, is you thinking before jumping into the project. Because when you think before jumping into the project, you will know what technology you'll be using, you will know all those CSS methods that we'll be using. For example, should I use Flexbox? Should I use Grid? So this is answered within the thinking before. Take an example of the tutorials that you watch. You see someone just saying div times 4, then he puts 4 divs just at once. Why are they putting 4 divs at once? Because by default, they have figured out things, they have thought, and they know they want 4 divs. So before they start even coding, they know how many, they know the number of divs that they want. So yeah, this shows you that they first think through before they start coding, as opposed to us. For us, we are trigger happy, like, code happy. When they say the police officers nowadays are trigger happy, they want to shoot everything. So we are code happy. Someone just jumps into the project, boom, they start coding. So midway, they call the TA. You see, I was planning to come up with this, but it is this that I have. Then when you look at their code, maybe they have done totally something different from what they wanted to achieve. Why? Not because you don't know the things. You already know the flex box. You already know how to change colors. You already know how to change this and that. But the problem is you didn't think through before entering that project. So it's what we are going to cover mostly, because it is what is giving people hard time. Yes, people know the things because, yeah, you have been doing a good role. You can clap for yourselves of going through the LMS. Then these Saturday roundtables have done a good job. But how do you translate, or how do you get that knowledge that you have been getting from those dev nights into real world, into code? That is the area of emphasis today. So I'll be sharing my screen and we start off like normal presentations. We have a few minutes. Yeah, one, we shall be doing a nav bar with you people. Then from that navbar, we shall do the thinking and everything with you people. Then after, we shall jump into a project, but that project will hide a contribute because we want it to be kind of student coded. Yeah, we might even do it halfway, then you people can go home and do it as an assignment. But all in all, feel free to interject at any point, because if I'm sharing my screen, I might not be seeing raised hands or, someone clapping. So you interject at any point. It is a free thing. It's not like this strict class, blah, blah. So feel free to interject at any point, and feel free to ask any question, and feel free to contribute. Maybe I am, discussing something and maybe in a wrong way. So you interject and say, what if we do it like this? What if we do it like that? Like that, we are here to learn. Maybe you have another method of doing things, because we have many methods. You can use grid to fix things. You can use flexbox to fix things. You can, if we come in a normal world, there are many ways of killing a rat. One can decide to beat it. One can decide to, to put a rat book. One can decide to shoot it. So any method will be welcomed. But yeah, kaspeed kagenda bam kamanyi. You are most welcome. I'll share the entire screen, desktop. Okay, so I'll put this down here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so why, let me do this. Why think before we enter into coding? For this, you'll be like, but why is he teaching us just HTML and CSS? So I'll put into the web, normally just think React, then go to images. I want to go to their original thinking, but yeah, let me go to their page, their official page. So the things that we are going to learn today will help you even when you reach the React bit. Think React, like thinking before you start creating anything. Do not just jump into code. So when you look at this thing, there is a pencil here. When you look at this, you'll forgive my drawing. So when you look at that, it is a normal thing, like maybe a normal shopping cart, a normal, page, a normal thing, a normal like thing you'll be working on. But when you look at it, it is divided into other parts. Yeah, React is going to break that into that. But my point is, even in React, they tell you that think before you start designing your thing. How do we clear this? Clear all drawings. So React will come down here and break the thing, like break that interface that you have seen. I won't call it a thing, sorry for my language. So React will come and break that UI interface into smaller particular blocks that can be easily edited or worked on. So that's it. It's a product table, but it is broken down into other granular pieces, or, what should we say, sections that can be easily.
Subcomponents?
Yes, please.
You can call them subcomponents?
Yeah.
Or child components or something like that?
Yes, child components. So that's it. Like, if you get a project, because you might not be seeing the bigger picture as why I'm sharing this, but if you get a project, just break that project into smaller pieces, sub components, like say, this is our head, this is our container. Let that work of yours have shape. Then say within that container, we have something up here. If take an example, let's just do this imagination as a team. So we are imagining, take an example, this was a profile card. So a profile card has a container, like its card, then it has a profile image here, then it has your data here, date of birth and what, and all those things. So that's it. Before you begin to design anything, break it down into smaller pieces. So those pieces, you can easily divide them, like give them shape by, maybe sections, or if you are not using semantic HTML, you use divs. Then you identify what elements will you be using. For example, you might say, okay, here I'll be using H1s, H3s. Here I'll be using, normal paragraph tags. Here I'll be using. So by the time you get to the project, you already know you'll be using H1, you'll be using H3s. You already know the tags you'll be using. You already know the number of divs you will have if you are using div. So it will be easier for you to work on a project. Most people jump into the project and boom, start coding there and then. So that was the main part of today's discussion, that I've found out personally that people are not like thinking through things before they start coding them out. So out there, no matter what you find, no matter what you see, even if it's, an image content, or, any content, it is divided into those pieces. So it's you to divide the work that you are doing into pieces, and then it will be easier for you to work on, or, it will be easier for you to think of what method to do. Yeah, soon you'll be given a to-do app. We did one, but like that, break these into smaller pieces, know what will you be using there, like that. So you see, an entire page, but the way they broke it down. So the entire thing is the profile, then this has that. Then even within here, you can further break it down by saying it has a profile picture here, then it has a bio here, then feed, then other images. But even this, you can put a container around it and say, within this container, there are sub components, or, sub elements that are within. Are we all together up to that point, like thinking before you start coding? If you look at my notebook, it has funny diagrams of projects that I've been working on up to now. Even if I'm working on a React project, at least I draw, those funny things around. I'm like, wow. I just keep thinking as I'm drawing. I say, okay, I'll use this as an image. I will use this. So that thinking, that helps you a lot. By the time you get to the project, you already know what to use, than getting midway and then, you want to go back. That's when you see people midway the project and they're like, no, we used the wrong method, so we have to change. So that time that, you'll go back to changing. I know people can testify here that the changes you have made to projects after midway, So hope you picked something, like thinking, you see, you divide your work into divs or into those sections, but before you start, I just put think, react, or anything, but it shows you how we think. I'm picking these pictures randomly. I've never used them. You might be like, maybe you visited them before. No, I'm just picking randomly. But I'd picked a lesson from Think React. Yeah. So any questions before we go further around that? Have you been doing that? When you look at something like this, you see, so this person, before even they designed, I know, yeah, I will have an image here. I will have a card that, encloses everything. I'll have a button here. So they know what they are going to use even before they start coding. Then a person midway and they're like, oh, I needed a button here, but I forgot. Then, you are going back, forth and back. This is an active class. Any questions? Because we are going to jump into coding. What we are going to code are two things. One, we shall pick a front-end mentor project. Then two, we are going to do a nav bar just to get our thinking at hand. Where are we there? We shall do one from here. We shall do the top one. Let me download this. I don't want YouTube. I want this. Hello, team. Any questions? The team is so quiet. Are we getting everything? Okay. In case you have anything to ask, in case you have what, please feel free to reach out. Then don't see a nav bar as nav bar, like we are going to think of it as a bigger project. So I don't want you to look at it. Okay, so disorganized my screen.
Now, Famba.
Yes, please.
Famba.
Yes, please.
Now this picture here, you've just got it from React.
This one?
Yes, this thing here. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Think React. It is from React. It breaks you. It tells you break the UI into a component hierarchy. Then it tells you start by drawing boxes around your components and sub-components in the mockup, blah, blah. So it tells you that. Though the point here is not Think React. Think React was just an example. The point here is breaking your work into smaller components or manageable work, or thinking your work before even you start coding it. Because you might not be doing that thing in React. Here we are on HTML and CSS, but the main component behind our back is to, to have that thing before we start. I'll do this. But it's there. I'll share a link in case you want one.
Okay, that's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, even if you just put into your Google Think React, you'll see those images coming around. There will be many actually. So I'll open this. I want it to cover the entire screen. So this is what we are going to cover today. I'll increase its size. Oh, sorry, it is blurry. I don't know why. I had a good image yesterday. Okay, we shall use this. Yeah, we shall use this. So this is what we are going to design. But we are going to change from it. We are not going to design the same thing exactly the way it is. But all in all, we are here to get some concepts from it. So say, I'll do this. Yeah. Let me do this. Don't think of this. Don't think of this down a bit. This one. No, don't think of it. We are going to design the one that is up here. But what are we doing? You'll be like, but why that? We have ever designed this. Yes, it is a small thing, but it is a bigger thing if we put it in a bigger context. Any project that you'll be seeing is broken up into pieces. So I'll show you how we break this into pieces. Then from that, you can be able to break any project or any, interface into the pieces that you want. So we shall say one. What do we see here? Me as a person, before I start coding, what am I seeing? Okay, I'll get some answers. I want some cross answers. What do you see there? And if, as a person, how would you break that, UI into smaller components? Anyone can unmute and talk. Should I pick people randomly? Anyways, let's just proceed. People will be like, people will run out from the call. Okay, since we are, again, it's time, I'll just do the share, the thinking, tell you how you have to, not tell you how you have to, but yeah, guide you through maybe to hope. So me, when I look at this, I see a container, a mother container out. So I begin breaking by saying, okay, I will have a div, or if I'm working on the header, it will be a header, or if I'm working on the footer, the outermost layer will be a footer container, or will be a footer itself. So since we are working on what we are calling a navbar, so the outermost container can be navbar container or can be navbar itself, all in all. And then another thing, you have to give descriptive names. Yeah, you see, when we are seeing tutorials, when they are showing us examples, they will give a certain div 1, then they give another div 2, another div 3. Yeah, it's fine. Even if you give them 1, 2, 3, it's fine. Before you work on bigger projects, there are projects that have 1,000 lines of code. Just imagine if, you had named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like you go into CSS, or someone else comes to your code to maintain it, and they don't know what 1 means. But if at least, even if it's you now, when you go to someone's code, and in the CSS you are seeing navbar container, navbar links, you will already know that, okay, these stylings are applying on the navbar. But just imagine someone named it 1, 2. So you won't know what is 1, what is 2. You won't know where the styles are going. And since we will be working on many projects, or a project that will be containing a team, give descriptive names. A team, for example, Raymond will call it 1. Another team member will call it 2. Another team member will call it 3. So when you tell your team members to collaborate or to make changes on that 1, they won't know where the 1 is, where the 2 is. Yes, it is working for you now because you are writing codes, a code base that has 10 lines, 5 lines, so you can easily identify, okay, this is 1, this is 2. But if you are writing bigger projects, you'll need more than that. So that's it. Those are the key points to note down: critical thinking, giving descriptive names, breaking your work into smaller projects. So that's it. Then within that, I'm seeing 3 sections: 1, 2, sorry, undo, 2, 3. So even before I start coding, I've already separated this work into the 3 parts. So by default, here you have already started thinking of what method are you going to use. So if I were me, I could just use flex. I could just say, let me use flexbox. Then it separate. I will give them flexbox. Then the action will be row. So it separates them 1, 2, 3 rows. Then I'll give them, space in between, and it will put an even space or a standard space in between them. Before even coding, you have already gotten the solution. So you'll see how less time it will take us to build this solution. Then you come further deep and say, okay, within this other thing, within this, I'm also seeing other steps. I'm seeing it has 3 subsections within. 1, 2, 3. So this is where you will see yourself coming up with a nested flex. Like, yes, you can, the entire thing can be flexbox. Then within it, there is another, this is also another container because it is containing other resources, and then it might also be flexbox. But we are not going to make it flexbox, but you will see. But that's it. Like, before you jump into a project, break it down into granular or smaller components or pieces, sub-components. Like, find that name that will help you pull this thing off before even you start coding. So you'll see how less time it will take us to code it. Then you can say, yeah, this is our container. Okay. This is our mother container. This is that. So we are going to code this, and you'll see how less time it will take us to do. Any questions before we go further? Please feel free to interject at any time. So any questions? Are we people there? You people, are you there?
Yes, we are.
Are you
Yes,
learning
we are
something?
still around.
Are you learning anything?
Yes, please.
Now, hey, hello.
Yes, I
I
can
have
hear
a
you.
question.
Yes, please.
So let's say you visit a random website. So, is there like a criteria used to identify these sections? Like, for example, on this one, how would you know that the nav bar has been categorized in a certain way? Do you use the formatting, or you just sort of have your own criteria?
Yeah, you just have your own criteria. Because
Okay.
this thing is also playing with me. Oh, select mouse. But I think I've not used Blackboard and it is doing this. Let me take a screenshot of it. Shall keep referring to it. Then clear formats. Okay. For example, but yeah, that's, yeah, I won't say it's self-explanatory. We go back to this. For example, you have this, you have Google. We shall just choose this. Yeah, by you just seeing, just like by you mere seeing this work, you have already divided that. Like the skill I want you people to have is that it is not like physical teaching that someone will tell you use this method, use that. Since there are many ways that we can play around with things in CSS and HTML, that's why when you do front-end mentor projects, you find someone that did the same thing. It is equally like they look the same, but they use another method. So here we won't bound you to use this method, use that method, no. But by default, you know how your work is. You will already know, okay, a picture should be in its own div, then this content should be in its own div, then there must be a mother container around it, then there is maybe this in its own div, because you can't put a picture, and yes, you can put them in a single div, but the arrangement might be messy. So not even div, a separator, because a section bit, you might use a section, you might use a div, you might just put an image there, yes, within the same div, but an image which is not enclosed within a section or a div. My point is, you just see that you have to develop that skill of that eye skill, not even just coding it, but you'll find ways of how to identify. There might not be no lesson of telling you how to identify things, but you'll have that method that makes your work easier. That's okay. If I separate these two, I'll just do them flex, because why I would use flex on a mobile version, they will want this to come up and this to come down. So I'll just change one line of code. I will say, oh, hello guys, can you hear me? I see my Zoom showing ready.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we are getting you.
So you'll just...
Mr. Famba, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So I understand that Flexbox and Grid are methods. Is float also a method? Would I have to use it as an alternative too?
Floating.
Yeah, floating.
Yes, when you want but floating, yeah, it would work in some. Okay. We shall open CSS and answer that well. But maybe you want your work to stay there. Yes, please.
Okay, so my understanding, I actually, while learning about CSS, I used to use float, and I'll go for display, display block, display inline, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff, and float left, right, and all that. It seems a little bit easy, but as far as I was learning, I found so many people saying that it's kind of old-fashioned and it's kind of limited as compared to what you can do with Flexbox or with Grid. So I for one, I kind of discarded it. So I chose the trendy way of doing it because it has more functionality. There is quite a lot that you can do with Flexbox. Because if you choose to use that avenue, then you will have to go with positioning, and I find that sometimes that Flexbox help you with to manage positioning and all that. I don't know. What's your take on using that? Because I really want to appreciate the caveats of using Flexbox vis-a-vis the older way.
Okay, so I'll go. Yes, I take the same approach. That's why I wanted to explain to him when we reach CSS and he's seeing it physical. Yes, Grid came before Flexbox. Then they saw Grid was kind of complicated to do things. Then they brought in Flexbox. Every time they go on, they improve an existing thing. It can be hard for you to do the positioning. That's why when we were doing the other thing, as our nav bar, let me get the image. As one of the reasons I gave you that it will put for us a standard space in between. So if you are doing spacing yourself, positioning yourself, if devices change, the spacing might not work as intended. Say you want, say, let it be, this says fixed, this says that. By the time you do all that, I can use one line of code, say, flex, like justify content, space in between, or gap one. Like, it saves me a lot than saying, you keep on playing around margins, margin 20, it is not working well, margin 21, like that. So I would require you to use the current things that are on, or trends that are working. There will be hardly any site you'll find that has no Flexbox. Someone prove me wrong. They might be hardly no site. So yeah, you can use it, but it's kind of old-fashioned, as I had said. But we in developing, we don't have anything called old-fashioned. Anyone can decide to pull it off that way, as long as the end results are the same. But to save time, no developer wants to waste much time on a single project. Use things that are already existing. We shall inspect this, and you will see much of their is want us to inspect, and but it was built in React. Body, a div, class rounded, wrapper, container, the way they spacing them. But you see, even here, they are giving descriptive names, card wrapper, spacer, like maybe that div was giving in a space. Yeah. Class this. Though, yeah, you'll see, but this one, you'll see most sites, you'll find Flexbox there, because actually you see Flex. You see Flex. So Flex is the way to go. You see Flex. There is, like, just open random sites, then you do inspection. There must be Flex somewhere. I'm not saying use Flex all the time, but you see Flex. So maybe it is an easier way to fix things. Yes, the other way, that's why I told you there are many ways to kill a rat. You can decide to shoot it. You see the CSS properties. They cancel the block one, then display in hold. There must be display flex somewhere. But that's it. Like, the flex way is the way to go. Though if you can pull it off the other way, it's all good. The client, all matters the client is, are they getting the product the way they want it to be? Okay, so we shall go to coding. I'll do home, I'll do local data. Then one thing I'll tell you people, fans work, please build projects. You see, this is a single, I'll close this for now. My front-end bootcamp, entire track, these are the projects that I built in a single bootcamp. Yes, as you are joining, they will tell you, we shall give you hands-on training. No, this one was the other day when I was explaining Team 6, but the rest were built in front-end. So they will tell you, we have, these projects to build on. Yes, they will give you projects, but they are a few projects. This was our final project. This was from Khan's Code. This was from Khan's Code. And which else? This was from Khan's Code, but the rest, GitHub was from Khan's Code file, but the rest, advice generator, flyer, blah, blah. You find these things that I got them from front-end mentor. So it's up to you. This one was, a self-initiative. This was from Khan's Code. Yeah, there are many from Khan's Code, but this was from front-end mentor, front-end mentor, front-end mentor, front-end mentor, front-end mentor, like that. So go to front-end mentor, find projects, build them. They will even make your portfolio beautiful, your GitHub, profile beautiful. Why we need projects? They help us learn a lot. Because yes, we learn all these technologies in the class, but if you're not putting them to actual use, you won't see their benefit. You won't see how they are applied. Yes, you'll know Flex, but you won't see how it is being used in real life and how beautiful it is. And yet, what you need is how it is used and how, to say it. Because at an interview, yes, sometimes they have those questions. The technical questions might cover those, but then the, other real world, maybe take home assignments, they require you to know the practicals of how to do that thing. So please do projects as much as you can. It is an open thing that, if you do, we shall give you more marks. Yes, Khan's Code will give you marks, but it is helping you learn. I did one project that changed all my mind, and I found things happy. So we call this Happy Weekend. So we shall open this into our terminal, then open it into VS Code. And hope everyone at least knows how to open a folder into their VS Code, because I may be rushing thinking people know, yet they don't know. And the purpose of this call is to clear all those things, like at least to get you up to some point of you carrying out or executing a certain project at your own. Can I hear some yeses? Does everyone know how to, up to the stage of opening your folder into VS Code? You don't want to imagine things.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you picking something?
Definitely.
Okay. As you know, we do index.html as our first. So then we do style.css. Yeah, for style.css, this is one critical name. And then the index part, I'll explain it. Always name your first page as index.html, because most servers will be looking out for that. We have seen people that you do everything right, then when you put it at maybe Vercel or where do we host the other thing we host on? Okay, I'll give an example. Vercel, GitHub Pages, and those other hosting platforms. For them, as a server, it will be looking for the index.html file. Yes, if you code well and your site here is running, but the name is like index1, index2. Those, yes, it still has the name index, but by mere putting 1, that is a different name. Every character matters. So that's not the same as index.html. So always make sure you name your first page as index.html. When you reach those other stages of React, index.js or app.js, those names that the server might be looking for. You might name this one Raymond, and then you work on the project and it's working fine on your machine. Then when you host it somewhere like on Netlify, yeah, I had people that used to come to me for Netlify. They have everything running and are hosted and their page is like not found, because the server was busy looking for index.html and it wasn't finding it. Then to your CSS, style.css, you can give them other names. If you anticipate of working on a project and it will have 1,000 lines of CSS codes, so you can decide to call this index.css. So you know that all the cells that are here will work on this index.html.
Mr. Famba, your sound seems to have a problem.
Yes, please. It is breaking.
Talking about your sound, but I can hear you very well. Perhaps it's be a network internet connection, but on my end, I can hear him very well.
Let other two people confirm you can hear me well.
Yeah, I also hear you very well.
Any other person?
Me too, I can hear you very well.
Okay, so please, yes, please.
Speaking of that, what of main.html? If let's say there was a scenario and someone, instead of using index, they use a main.html. Is it more like a standard procedure to basically use HTML if you're going to use other hosting platforms, or is strict, or someone can choose main instead of index?
Yes, it will be. It depends on the hosting platform that you'll be putting on. So, as I've told you, like for example, Netlify, for it looks for index.html. So if you name any other file, even if it's the standard way, it won't be seeing it. So according to that hosting platform or body, it will give maybe descriptions like you have to name your starting page as this and that. So maybe that was because of the hosting body, the body they were hosting on wanted main.html. For it will be looking out for main.html. So if you put index.html, even if it is the standard way, to not sit until it finds the main page or main.html. So it will depend on the hosting platform that you are working with. Though the standard ones would look for index.html.
Famba.
Yes, please.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying is before you even make a decision making a decision where to host, it will be prudent for one to go through the instructions on the website, what are actually given, because if you just rush into hosting without following the instructions, that is where you might miss out. Because I understand Netlify has a guide, and if you went through the guide and they're telling you index.html, then at least you will know that I need to change the name of my file. Or if you went to a different hosting website and they're talking about something else, that means you have to adjust your project to conform to their standards for it to be hosted properly.
Yes, this is that is one big problem many people are facing. Like when you don't follow the instructions, then you might blunder somewhere there. Be like, my project is running fine on the machine. Then when I host it, it is not running. Netlify has issues. No, Netlify doesn't have issues. It is your naming convention, or you missed out of one of their rules. Yeah, as Arthur has said, I'll also emphasize that I'd not put it on the list. But yeah, also always learn through documentations or be of those hosting platforms, or actually just familiarize yourself with reading documentations, because as you go further, you'll be working with other third-party, maybe APIs that you want to input into your code, and you need to read their documentation or their, instructions of how to use their API into your work. So it's a critical skill of reading. That's why maybe even they introduce us to book reading to get that skill. So reading is a critical skill. Do not cram things. You can always Google them. It is no harm. Yes, know what something does, but don't cram like as a Bible. If you can, well and good. but actually don't cram. You can, yes, get the concept in your head, but don't cram them. Learn how to read. Yes, if you don't know something, read through it, read about it, because there is pre-written code that maybe it wasn't written by you. So you can't cram someone else's framework. Like, by that gospel truth. Always check out on the documentation. You'll reach React and you'll see that most of the times you will be referring to the documentations of those, other APIs that you'll be integrating within your app. So Arthur has said out a good skill, reading is key. Before you host somewhere, read their instructions. Okay, so we shall proceed. Our time is fast spent, and we have not even started yet. What we are designing is this. Okay, so we are designing this. Okay, so when we come to our HTML.css, we do this. You press Shift-1 if you are using a normal machine. If you are using Mac, I don't know, then you press Tab for it to get you that boilerplate to be used. But I will re-indent this. It comes by default indented, but you will find someone giving you code that is on the same line. It will be hard for us to read through that code. I'll show you. We are not indenting because we are learning writing clean code. I'm going to show you some shortcuts that helps you indent your code, and you'll see how it improves the readability. Okay, coding camp should be our name. Then first things first, not to forget, you'll find someone doing changes on your, for example, CSS, and you are not seeing the changes because you didn't link it. So as you start there and then you can link your CSS. Me, that's what I always do. I open these files, or that's the planning bit that already the things that we'll be using, create them, then I link it. I link with the CSS, style.css, it's already there. Then I open this in a live server so that my changes are seen there and then. Yeah, it is empty because we have not put anything. So we shall put this that side. We shall get our VS Code, put it this side. We shall reduce this like that. Shall go to CSS, do this. I'll tell you what that means. Background color, see whether we are getting our thing. Yeah. So you confirm your CSS is linked. We shall delete this. We don't want it now. So yeah, another thing is, yes, however much you'll be using the divs, try as much as possible to write semantic HTML. So we shall say our semantic goes like this. You can cram these things, not cramming. You can get these things because they are self-explanatory. You'll have the header, you'll have the body, the main, then the what. Within the body, you have always our things have the navbar app, which is in the header. They have the main content and they have the footer. So those are the three main things that you will be using within So as you begin, if your project will have the header, you may be designing something that won't have a header, but ours will have a header. So we shall do header, close it off. We shall write some content there later. I'm not indenting for a reason, be like, but the instructor is writing poor code. Then we shall have the main. Then within the main, we shall just put an H2 tag called main content. So it reflects, the moment you save it reflects, you see people doing like, they go back to the browser, they go back here. Me at home, I have two monitors. They help me a lot to solve, this thing of back and forth, and then they improve the speed of doing things. Yeah, we shall not indent these two. So take an example. This was in a nested div. You won't know where the div is ending and where the div is starting. So already this code is looking ugly for me. I will indent it at this point. What I wanted it to indent it later, for us to see that benefit of, the importance of indenting. But look at this work. So you want to know where the main starts, where the main stops. Just because here you have, one tag, you are seeing where it starts and stops. But if you had a lot of content here, other divs within, so work will look shabby. You want to know which div is ending where. For example, let's say we had here a div. I'm just trying out.
Famba.
Yes, please.
If I may point out something, one of the advantages, the merits of indenting that I actually realize is when you're dealing with when you're having a lot of nesting in your code, for instance, the main section, you may put in other sections. Maybe you can put in an article, you can put in an aside or anything else of that sort. So when you indent, it enables you to be able to identify, to see the children. For instance, the main code it has children. It has an H2, which is a child. It has a D, it has a child, a direct child for a D, which is a paragraph. Now, when you indent, it's easy for you just by looking at it to know that this child belongs here. And it also helps with formatting of your code. For instance, there are times whereby you can minimize a particular section. Now, if you've indented your code very well, you're able to see, to do minimize. If, let's say, you're having a lot of code on one page and you would like to minify part of that code so that you can see the content which is at the bottom. So for me, that is the real reason as why I do using indenting. And I prefer using, I always tend to use spaces. I think I use spaces, and I use 2 instead of 4, because 4, sometimes your code may go onto the extreme right 4, and it ends up being wrapped so many times. So I myself, I choose to use spaces, and I use 2 instead of 4 when it comes to indenting.
Okay.
But it helps me basically identify which child belongs to which child, so basically for easy visibility, to know that this H2 belongs, ends maybe here. If maybe you've wrapped a section and it has a lot of content, you can know that this section starts from here and stops from here, if you've done the indenting very well. But if you haven't done it very well, you may have a lot of code, and then you may experience difficulty trying to format that, to basically, when you're trying to format that code. Let's say you want to apply CSS, you don't know which section you're targeting, because you're trying to, even when it comes to fixing bugs, for instance, maybe you've forgotten, you've put an extra anchor tag somewhere, or a closing bracket or something which is missing. When the code is not very well indented, you may struggle to basically find. If, let's say, you had a couple of lines of HTML code, then it will be difficult for you to peruse through to identify where the problem is.
Yeah, that is it, people. Like, that's actually, as he has explained, I'm not going to add any other word on his thing. That is the main explanation. For example, as he had said, just imagine, so you are seeing 2 closing divs. You don't know, okay, who can tell me where is this div? Where is this, H4 tag? But if we had indented our work, it would be easier for us. Yes, please. Yes, Arthur.
No. Sorry, I was talking to someone going into the data center.
Oh, okay. So you see how shabby or how ugly our code is. It will be hard for us to troubleshoot or to know, where to start. What are you targeting? Yes, even here you might not see its importance until you are working on projects that has, nested divs, as I had said. It has it has, other divs within. So the easiest way to indent without hesitation or adding lesser space, for example, you can add 1 tab, not a tab, space, it might not match well. Yes, it is still indenting, or 2, as Arthur has said, but to save time and save all that, you highlight your entire code, right click. So VS Code saw it ways that people don't format their code. So it put for you format section. So when you do format section, it will indent that code by default. So by default, okay, this entire thing is within the main. Okay. So this div has another div within, like, this is a child, this is a mother, because they are indented. So it will help you write clean code, because you find someone, you wanted this H4 in this div, but because if it wasn't indented, you don't know where it stops, you don't know where it ends, you'll end up closing the div from here, like that. Your code will look shabby and it will be hard for you to troubleshoot. So the main things we listed on our thing was critical thinking, troubleshooting, we are going to cover that, writing clean code, planning, we have already covered planning, we have already covered the thinking bit, troubleshooting, we are going to cover that, then clean code is here, like it's what I'm putting on emphasis now. For example, as I had said, if you have many things, you have a footer here that has other things, the footer, footer that, you know, maybe has other divs within or other sections. Remember here, it's you to decide what, you know, formatting for thing you'll be using for it. Has a footer here, say, put this into a paragraph tag that says, this is our footer. But if this code had a lot, like we had a lot of things, if you are troubleshooting and you only want to see minimal code of about footer, you come here, you minimize the main, minimize the header, then you only have the footer to work with. But that helps when you indented your work, like it knows how it is grouped. You see, it comes to a group. This minimal thing comes to a group. If you had not invented, that's why you don't find that here on, you know, on a paragraph tag that is not, you know, indented, or it's not a casing around, a container around things. Have we learned something like the skills? Have you been writing this clean code? Or code the overhead area, you know, as long as the code is working for you, you push, you push regardless. Can I see some emojis to confirm people are still on and are learning something? Okay, so those are 2, 3. Okay. Arthur might be laughing at us because he already knows these things. But yeah, it's
not necessarily. If you what they call the Feynman technique, one of my colleagues asked me, why do you attend some of these classes and all that? So I asked him, I'm not the kind, I take myself to be a dumb person, because they were gonna have a saying, you can discover something. For instance, there's some things that I was struggling with, but going through these classes, I found better ways of doing them. There's always something to learn from anyone, be it a beginner. So that is basically my mindset.
Okay, then one skill I'll give you, you said you give these 2 spaces so that the code doesn't overlap. I'll do...
like when you see, for instance, when you're having a smaller screen, you realize that your code will wrap a lot. Is it wrapping? Yeah, it's wrap. It will tend to wrap a lot. So in order for you to have some, to maximize the view space, I tend to use 2 spaces instead of 4. Because when you use the tab, it gives it 4. So I tend to use it under spaces before, and then I define it to 2, so that my indentation is not very much large. It's 2 instead of 4, because you may realize that, and also enabling wrapping as well. I ensure that I check within the configs of VS Code, so that I can.
That's the tip I wanted to give you. So if our work is wrapping, it is going till these ends, you see. By you scrolling through and it is giving hard time, VS Code has this shortcut, Alt Z. So there's no wrapping work. Like it has gotten our H4 and it has put it where we can see it. So when we do Alt Z, you see this H4 will go up to the other end. So when you do Alt letter Z, you see our work will come back. Like the H4 will cover, like it won't wrap, it will end. Where the browser ends, it will end there. So you can also be utilizing that. If you see, maybe you have copied an image link and it has XLL and, you know, it goes up to the end. Yes, please.
I beg your pardon on what you have done there. Like to wrap it up, what have you done?
Yes, for Windows machines, you press Alt key and letter Z, Alt Z. So it will wrap the work. Alt Z, it will wrap your work. If you want to unwrap, Alt Z still. You can try it out, put random text that is too long and then press Alt letter Z. Let me connect my laptop.
Okay, thank you.
You people began late. And we had a lot, so I have connected my laptop. Okay, we go on. Oh, these are all skills hope you write clean code. When you are writing code, you can do outset so that all your code is within the visible, working space that you can see all your code within, like, my H4 ends here, my H1 ends here. So we shall go on. Our main thing was in the header. So we shall wrap this, we shall do this so that we remain with the header as our main bit. When we look at this, I want us to be, going back and forth to our image. So when we look at this, so this is our header. So we have found the header. That person should mute unless you have a question for us. Okay, this is our header. Then within the header, there are 3 subcomponents within. So that's what we shall do. The subcomponents are there. We have a button. We have, a logo. Take this as a logo. We have a nav section because it navigates. You can call it anything as long as those are descriptive name. Then we shall name this as a nav button because you might have other buttons within, your work. So since this button is in the nav, you call it a nav button. Why? You might have other buttons within your work, and then 2, I don't know. Yeah, that's the main reason. So we shall give this our class name. Class equals to, this is our nav bar. I called it nav bar container yesterday, and then the team was like, no, Famba, Lillian is on the call. That is a nav bar. Yeah, the naming might not, because this is just a class, doesn't mean. Person with 99. I'm muting him, but I don't know. Please, the person with 99 mute.
Hassan, don't mute him.
I'm muting him, but I don't know why my Zoom is not functioning.
Try muting him. Yeah.
I've tried. If you can see my screen, you see I'm pressing mute, but he doesn't mute. Hassan, please. By the way, Hassan, I'm a Muslim. I'm a good practicing Muslim. That's why I didn't want this call to go into Swala time. I'll also be going for Swala. It is not yet Swala time. Okay, he has left. Sorry if we felt offended, but yeah, can go on. So we have a nav bar. Then within our nav bar, we had a logo. So someone can wrap it into a div. Since we want our logo to be, clickable, I'll personally wrap it into an anchor tag that takes it to our homepage. When you click a logo, it takes you back to the homepage. So hash means that default page where it will be. Then within that, we shall wrap it in maybe an H3 tag that says, what should we call it? shall do coding. I'll put a span around. I'll show you different uses of a span. We shall call it coding what? Coding camp. So yeah, that is our first wrapping. You can say to wrap it into a div and give it a class name of logo if you are going to work around it. Then 2, we had where the links are. I can say the links were in a nav since we are using semantic HTML. If I press save, you see the things taking change. So the links are in the nav. Then there were 3 links. We shall all wrap them into this href for this page. Then I'll copy this, paste it 2 times. Please feel free to unmute and ask anything. Then call this home. Hope everyone remembers there were 3: home, about, and doesn't matter. We shall call it services.
That was projects and then contacts, I think.
Yeah. Services.
Oh, whatever.
Then we shall, no, you can refer to it, but I don't want to copy as, the way it is. We can do changes around. But yeah, that's it. Home, about, services. Then there was a contact button. So we shall put a button here. A button. Then, give that button contact. Contact. So the button will come. So we give this a class name of nav button because it's a button within our nav, because you might have other buttons than calling randomly button and then all your changes are applying to the buttons. But here within the project, you have another button that has other colors, has other things, other features. So always give these descriptive names to help you a lot within your code. We shall call this nav, give it a class of nav section. Any questions up to there? We are going to CSS. We are done. We are going to go to our CSS and you'll see this come into shape within the remaining 10 or 5 minutes. But that's it. Entire thing, entire mother is the nav bar. It is mothered. Or the entire container, you can call it nav container, as long as it is containing. Okay, what is the definition of a container? We go back to that. A definition of a container, not in a programming way, in a normal way. There is a point I want to drive home. Anyone chorus answers because we are late? The definition of a container
is more like the way you see a container, you're able to put things inside of it. So if let's say this was a food container, then if let's say the nav section was the food nav bar, for instance, is the food container, then the nav section is inside the nav bar. It's been stuck inside the nav bar, and inside it there is another small container, just like what they call the Russian doll. But the word container remains the same as our normal. It retains the normal meaning in English. So sometimes people call it a wrapper for basically wrap it, like. But most of the time, people use container because it makes more sense. If you were to mention it to someone else, they really understand what you're actually talking about.
Okay, then another thing, yeah, that is the thing. But what determines, this is a question, what determines the amount of food that you'll put in that container? The answer is its shape. I'll give that answer. Why I'm referring to that, we find most people rushing to style the button even before you style your container that you are putting the button in. So the shape of the container is the one that will tell the size of the of the things or the components or those things that will be within the container. For example, if you have your Renzol water bottle, it is the one that is determining how much water you can fetch from a lake. So the mistakes that we are doing, because you have already seen this button is white, is this, you go to your CSS, you begin giving the button color, shape, you begin with this. I'll do dot nav, it was nav button. Sorry, I'm giving just an example. You begin like background color, white. Hope the background was white. Then, you know, maybe size. We shall give it white size. Shall give it some height. Since we want it to be fixed of 10 pixels. No. The height will be auto. Yeah. The height will be, let's leave the height auto, then the width, give it some width of, yeah. Width, yeah, width. We gave it in rems. To rem. It's not doing what we want. We give it like 5. We give it, okay. The example, the point I'm driving home is you can't define what you are putting into the container before you see the container. And then when the truck comes, it tells we are full, yet you have collected family members to gain it, and you know, you always see that comment. I'm bringing in comment because the class might be a bit boring, but you collect colleagues to gain it, and then when you go to, by the time you get to, you know, where you are boarding from, they say we have one position in the car. So before you style the things that are in the container, you define its container. It will give shape to the things that are in. Have we got that? I was on a call with someone I want to mention in another group. Then, yeah, before they design, you tell them maybe design this. They have already given this 1, 2, then they have already designed other things. And before I left the call, I told them, before I left that chat, I told them my focus was mainly on the main or the mother container, because I wanted to leave you artists with the mother container, and then these other stylings you can design them the way you want, but at least first get the shape of the mother container.
Famba, how about the best example of a car, a small car, a family car? Let's say you don't have a station wagon, which is usually a 7-seater, and you have a normal car which has it's a 5-seater. You can't necessarily fit 7 people in there or 10, because its capacity is limited to 5. If it's 7, then you can't necessarily put in 10. We're not talking about you squeezing in. There is nothing like squeezing in, because you have to work with the available space. So what you're actually saying is you have to think of if you're designing a container, you have to also look at the children or the items you want to add to the container. Will they be able to see it? If the container is smaller, then you realize some of them won't be able. They will be overlapping and being squeezing each other. So you should always basically define the container size, have the container size in mind, knowing that this container, just like a car, if you have 10, maybe let's say 7 kids, let's say 7 people, you'll say, I really need a station wagon because they can't fit in there. We can't fit in a 5-seater car, something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Members, hope you are learning something. These basics, yes, we already know them. You already know background color. You already know this from the previous lessons. Then 2, I would encourage you to always return like everything, like make sure the properties you are working with don't have any styles around them. So me always, I'll unclear this, then we shall see how it, you know, applies to normal life. So I do border what? Box sizing, border box, so that the cells that I apply to the, you know, to a div applies particular to that div. You see, by default, we see here some padding. We see, you know, this button has, you know, padding around it. This one has margin around it. So I'll do padding 0. I'll show you the changes. Then I'll do margin 0. Sorry. sorry, Kaspeed time, margin 0. But if you have any questions, you ask them. Shall do margin 0, so that everything doesn't have any margins around them. You shall do yeah, basically those are the thing like content, the style around content, text decoration none, decoration to none, so that I'm dealing with something that doesn't have any properties applied to it, any CSS properties applied to it, like those default properties that will come with, that come within a browser that are applied to our elements. So yeah, you are not seeing the use of this. I'll uncomment out to this. I'll comment out to this, sorry. I'm going to show you the use. Yes, please.
I just wanted to say something about box sizing, border box, because sometimes it's a bit confusing. Now that you were talking about the container, when you define, let's say, maybe your container has 3 divs, and you've given them you've given each of them a border of, let's say, 1 pixel or 3 pixels each. When you do border sizing, when box sizing is equal to border box, instead of it eating up space of that container, CSS will calculate the padding. It will calculate the actual content itself, the padding, and make sure, if let's say you've designed if the size of that div is, let's say, 5 pixels, and then you add on a border of 1 pixel, that will basically be 6. But when you use border box, CSS will recalculate and ensure that that border falls within the 5 pixels you've defined for that particular child, to make use to economize on the space which has been defined by the container. Because if the container is, let's say, defined at 10 pixels, and you may be having 2 children whereby one is 5, and then you're adding on a margin of 1 pixel, which would be a 6, that means
yes, Arthur, you are breaking. Can anyone hear him? I can't hear Arthur anymore. People make this class active. Can anyone hear Arthur?
Hear you.
Okay, I was just saying, for instance, take an example whereby you have a container which is of size 10 pixels. Okay, let's say 10, or let's say 100 pixels. That's okay, let's say 100 view height with, let's say, 100 pixels view height. And now you have other small containers, or the children containers, and there are 2 of them, and each of them is 50 view height, 50 pixels view height. Technically, both of them should be able to fit into the container of 100 view height pixels. Now, if let's say you went ahead and added a pixel of, let's say, 1 or 2 pixels on the border of any of them, that would simplify that the container, which is 100, will no longer be able to accommodate both of them. One of them will have to overlap. So when you've applied that I need border box sizing to be border box to be applied onto all the contents within the DOM, it will calculate the 50 viewport height, and then get this 1 pixel which you defined for a border and adjust it to fit within. So in other words, it will basically like squeeze or push out the padding and the content of the element and the margin to ensure that even that 1 pixel you've added for the border is part of the 50 pixels, rather is part of the 50 view height you've defined for the child container, in order to make sure that both of them do fit in. Instead of adding onto the length of that container or the height of that container, it will just factor in, and it will just reduce on it. For instance, if it was 50, it will make it maybe 49, and then say that this 1 pixel for the border, it will get the 1 pixel and assign it to the border, and then ensure that the rest of the content falls within the 49 view height width. I don't know whether I've made it, trying to explain it much better. So in other words, it won't add on the 1 pixel. It won't basically make it 51, because technically by you adding the border of 1 pixel, it will mean now the container is 50 plus the 1 for the border. But box sizing will squeeze the elements inside so that they can fit in within the general container. I hope I was trying to basically explain the box sizing and how it actually works.
Yes.
So that I hope I've labored to bring the point across.
Yeah, that is it. I was going to explain more of those points. Like I've commented out those. We shall apply, we shall see how they apply in real life. But as I had said, in a layman's language, normal language, is box sizing will make the content fit within like the mother container. For example, if you have given a mother container 10, maybe view height, the content that is within will make sure will take that space that is, for that mother container, as has been explaining. Even if you give it like maybe feature, what should I call it, that expands, it will still expand, but within. It won't be taking the entire maybe browser way of things, but it will be taking those properties will be applying according to the size of the mother container. It will make sure they fit within that mother container. In a normal language, the way he has explained it is the right way, the CSS way, the what, but the normal language. Just know our navbar up here, the content here will make sure how whatever size we give it, what CSS will apply this box sizing style, and it will make sure it fits within our container. We shall see that. But yeah, thanks Arthur for that. So we have our navbar class. I want you to see how things can change by click. Like you do changes in a quicker way. Just say, okay, this thing was this display flex. Display flex zoom. So it does that. Say you wanted space in between it, justify content, space in between, or space even need. It will be up to you, you will know. But I'll do space evenly so that spaces them. Then it has already done shape. But we are seeing, because I wanted it to do that way, that's why I had commented this out. We are seeing this shape is longer than the others, then this is up. Yes, they're of the same size, just that these two, we are not seeing the size around them, but they are of the same, like those pre-default browser feature, properties that come within. So when we apply this decoration, none, padding 0, blah, blah, so it will all be on the same line because it will have removed all those extra features, all those extra properties that come pre-default within the browser. So I always emphasize people to, if you want to work on something and you are really working on that thing, like, yes, I'm giving padding 2 or, margin 0, I know I'm giving that and it is applying the way you want it, is you do this, like you clear those default browser properties. I had commented this out so that you see the changes. So you see, if we put some, color around this, you will see that it is also occupying almost the same space, but we are not seeing it occupy the same space because, hope you got my point. That's it. So we shall do that. Then another thing, we shall find people, the background is white, then the div is white, then sorry, I was on a call, but I'm here. Then you will see people, the background is white and our navbar is white, then a person will be busy giving it width. For example, we say width of 300 pixels. I'm trying out with pixels. Now we'll add on a 350 so that you don't see the changes there and then. So you see, yes, it has applied, but you are not seeing any change. Yes, this might not be a live example, but you are not seeing changes sometimes to the, the features that you are the properties that you are giving to your containers or your elements, because literally you are dealing with the same background and same one. For me, what I always do, the simple troubleshooting skill is I give it background color For example, I will just do random color, blue. So you see, it is now showing where our width is ending. So for example, you want 450, you just keep seeing the width changing. Why I'm bringing in this is a simple troubleshooting skill. Yes, you might not leave there this color permanently if it's not the color that is of, but it's just a troubleshooting method that as you are dealing with these components, sometimes if you are designing them, you might need to give them some different color that differentiates them from the main element or from other things for you to see things taking shape. If we had another thing starting from here and maybe you wanted them to occupy middle each, like you see these things, you will see. I'll give you an example of this. We had a good one. Let me just press back and see whether it will come. So you see this as an example. Maybe these divs occupied equal space. Like this is in the center. Also this, like they took equal space. But how did he pull it off? Maybe if you want to see where if they are taking equal space and what, you first maybe give them color around and you see if the changes you are applying are doing the effect. Take an example, you reduce this margin, maybe margin 10, and you are not seeing the margin reduce because your shape doesn't have color. So remember, one of the things or one of the aims of this call was, troubleshooting. So giving color or shape is part of troubleshooting skills that you may have. If you have not used color, I use this method a lot, by the way, as a person. So if you have not used the color, you can say border, then give it like 2 pixels, then be like solid, then give it color like black. You see, to give, that border around. Why am I giving it a border or something that differentiates it from the other content is to see if the changes that I'm putting to, to that object, are they applying? By raise of hands, how many people have done changes and they are not seeing the changes apply like in normal life? You do something, then you don't see the changes coming out. By raise of hands, if you have ever encountered such. Hello, is the class still on? Yeah, so hope you...
I've ever gone through that, but not me. Basically, when I'm designing, I always tend to use borders. If you remember one of the what call it, one of the round table, I was using borders around, so it helps me understand if I'm applying padding, is it really being applied, like for visibility. So I tend to use borders a lot to basically see if, let's say, I'm trying to extend between, let's say, the main and the header. Is it really being applied? So those borders actually show you, because they demarcate that this is where the first element, the navigation, ends, and this is where the main ends, like the way you see it over there.
Yeah, I brought that because I've helped a student and they had that issue. Like you keep applying the changes and you are not seeing the changes, you are not seeing your margins, you applying, then you give them, so you find someone's code that has, for example, margin of a bigger number, and you're like, this number, it's big, because they were not seeing the changes being applied. So they kept on adding the sizes, so you keep adding 500, maybe 5,000. You'll find someone with 5,000, like, how did 5,000 come? Because maybe they were doing things and they were not seeing the changes. But yeah, those are the troubleshooting skills that we are learning about. I've given it 00. That's why it's like at 00. We shall give it a good color. We had seen the other color, but we will want to go back into that color. We do background color. We give it some army green. We shall give it a descriptive color like blue, just that. So we shall remove this width thing. So we shall give it some height. Because we want the height to be fixed. We shall give it like 10 pixels. Yeah. Sorry, we shall increase some speed. That is not enough. 40. The way navbar would be, and that's a normal size of a navbar. No, it isn't. Shall do 50. Yeah, we shall not exceed 50. Then we shall uncomment this out so that our content is the way, yeah. Yes, we shall leave that out. Then we shall say, but all these can be up. Yes, our thing has started taking shape, but it is taking shape is because we are seeing as it is taking shape than people that, you do the coding, then, oh, you are back and forth. Me, what I do, you first finish the the HTML bit you want, then you begin applying CSS so that you see your CSS being applied instantly there and then. So we are doing many things. We shall do, justify content, terminate this. We want that content to be in the middle. Justify content, center. Yeah, we shall change that. Then align item, align solve. That is also in center. Oh, we had already justified the content here. So just align center. Then this should be what? Not space evenly. We do space in between so that pushes everything to the extreme end like that. Like it has space here, it has here, then it is here. We shall apply some margins around it, then this content will be the way we want it to be. Are you getting something? Have you seen how easy it can be for us to, to do things if at least we have? So we had our span. We wanted that span to be a different color. So we do span. We wanted it to be color yellow.
But can you change the color for the navigation items to like white maybe? Because they're like covered within black.
Yes, we are going
within blue, the background.
Yeah, we are going to change the colors, but we are, moving part by part. So we shall have our anchor tags since they were in an anchor tag. We can use the class names we gave them, then be like color, white. So they will all change to white, the way they had said. Then we had our class nav button. We can work on that button to fit the way we want it to be. But from here, you can pull everything off, right? I just give a closing thing, and then with this, we can give it like margin right. Right, 10 pixels. So it gives some margin there, but 10 inch place. No, but we don't want a fixed margin. We want the margin to be changing according to devices. We shall give it. So these things you keep changing the way you want it to be. Then our logo, do we give it a class name logo? We give it a class name called nav logo. If you have another logo, when we come here, we do .nav logo, then we do margin left. But the better way would be you wrapping all that into one container that you just give that to a single container. But the main lesson here was the concepts, not the styling mostly. So you do that, shall give margins to these, we shall, just change the button height and what. like that, and things will be taking shape the way we want them to. This button, we can give it height, width of 5 frame, padding, are those objects applying padding like 5 pixels. Something is wrong with our button. I don't know why these changes are not applying to it. Then you can say like those things, margin, what, like the setting would be all yours. Then anchor tags to give them for them to be clickable and what. So this to give them margin around them. Or
Would you try giving the button a border of maybe 3 pixels and you see if it's getting affected?
yeah, that's what I want to do. We give it a border of 3 pixels, solid. Solid, yellow. It's getting affected. So that is it. Members, hope you have learned something. Yes, we are going to finalize with this, giving this, for example, if they are clicked to change their colors, if they are like that, we shall be playing around with them. We shall leave our button like that. I'm going to change it. We can give it some radius, border radius.
Famba, it
Yes,
seems the width is actually being applied, but it's basing on the width of the navigation since it's within the navigation. Isn't it using the navigation as its root instead of HTML, the entire thingy?
The radius. Oh. We increase on this with it to 6. Then margin right. Then add this applying. And then we're applying. On why the button is taking up that, we shall limit its width. Oh, we give it a width. We shall give it a height. Reduce its height to auto. That it copies, but if it doesn't, you can limit it to like that. Here there is something align soft, align content center. That everything is in the center. Yeah. Hello team, are you there?
Yes, how about imagine top
No,
elements from the word?
We are going to give them just so by content center. This is not applying. Why? The hierarchy, the order. We just give them.
How about align items? Align items.
I've tried align items and it has not worked.
Justify items, align items, and then justify because using specific.
Yeah. Actually, it was align item center, but I had given it before it wasn't applying. So that's it. So we have
because you had moved away from the main to the cross axis because we wanted to put in the center. So that's why I chose align. By the way, if pardon me if I'm, but I would like to encourage people to try out Froggy Flexi. Is it Flexbox Froggy? It is really
Try out
very
what?
nice. Flexbox Froggy.
Oh, the other
Yes.
thing that gives challenges and then you answer them.
Yes. It's very, very good. And it actually, what really helped me appreciate when to use which one applies to the cross axis, which one applies to the main axis. Like it's really, really good if you're practicing actually.
Now, team, you see, we have came up with this simple thing in a few minutes. This, that, and that. Sorry for those delays. Maybe the mind had also switched off. But yeah, like, it is arranged. It has put standard space in between, Yes, you can do other things, further, changes. We can say if they are clicked on, they should be yellow. So you come to this. All those things you already know. The major lesson was on how to come up with projects, troubleshooting them. So with the anchor tags, we can say, yeah, their color is yellow when they are active. So we copy this. Now it has class of active, but it should be only these ones that should be active. These, the ones that will be in the nav section, these ones. So we get nav sections and its tags to be active. We don't want the ones for the head to change. So we do this. We do class. There is no effect of you copying the class and pasting it here, then typing and you type a wrong one. Anchor tags, then anchor, then on hover, when someone hovers around them, what should the color be? The color should be yellow. Maybe you want to change its font. Maybe you want it to be highlighted, blah, blah, all those things. So if someone comes to that, has it saved? Yeah, yellow. So it has those classes, yellow, when one is active, it should be this, like that. So those skills, you already know them, you have been getting them from, maybe you can change them, the way they look is funny, you can give them color, you can give them fonts, like that. We can say the anchor tags, before even they be clicked, before even the hover, we want them to increase, So this is at the end, but you apply changes and you are seeing them, and it will be, you'll be happy because you'll be seeing changes taking place. So I would encourage the steps, do the thinking, do the HTML bit, then begin applying the steps at least when you are seeing them, but not moving back and forth. You go there, you design, the anchor tag, then you go back to CSS, you sell that on only that one thing, then in the end you see things are not matching the way you wanted them. So please, hope you learned something. I want to close this. We are far, like we pushed beyond our time. One last thing I can do with them, maybe give them some
Famba, maybe before you go, Mr. Famba.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you said you said something about the span, the span element.
Okay, the span. Yeah, the span has helped us change this into yellow, and then the other is what? Is white. When you got some coding interview, I remember one first thing I got from the mentor that was mentoring me was to design google.com, then shall just do Google. I want Google for so he told me one thing. He said, I want it to be texts, like all these words should be a text. When you go to google.com, you'll see that text of Google is clickable, like just that they have put an image, but in a normal Google, you'll see it clickable, like you can highlight the words. So when you do google.com, those words, google.com, you'll find, yeah, today they changed it, it's an independence day, but you'll find those words that are clickable. So how did I pull this off? They want you to see if you can use those different things that you study in class to see if you can pull it off. How did I do that? This is a different span, so I gave it an individual color. This is a span. Yes, it might be all H3, then different spans to give different colors. So a span would help us to put sub-components or sub-elements within the main element. So our main element in this thing was, where is the code editor? Our main element was this, the H3. But within the H3, we added this. So any changes that we apply here will apply to that span. For example, if we say that camp should be, bigger than the normal one, so we come back our span and say its font size should be bigger than maybe the rest. Maybe we can put colors in, sizes in, yeah, when it is on a single line, you see camp will be bigger than that. You'll center it, you'll do what, but that's it. That's the main use. I'll be showing you other uses of it. We shall remove this. I'll be showing you other uses, like if you were dealing with products, say product cut button. Yes, you might have been doing this thing in a different way. It won't limit you to do the same thing. Like you can do it that way. But if there is a way you can do it, make would use a span. For example, you might be designing this. It is a single element, maybe an H4, but this has a cross price. Maybe this is smaller than you see those things they put all the price, then they say from this all the price to the new price. So I could put them in a single thing, then say this is a span. Then on my span, I say text decoration line through. So it will put a line through. I have ever worked on a front-end mentor project and put that. Yeah, there are many, you just press enter. There are many examples you would use a span. So it should be just you to use your knowledge and see how to apply it. I'll take you to front-end mentor, see how we have ever used one. For example, you see things, you see the price, like some car price is small, then the other is big. How, for example, you may see this, the dollar is up, then there is a price, or there is some other price up here, like ShopRite does, like that. So I can apply that using a span, but don't cram it that it should be a span. No, maybe you have any other method that you have been using. You can see this, you see this up. Someone can decide to use a superscript or subscript, like put up or down. Someone can decide to use a span and put it there, like that. Then the other thing I'm talking of is a project. Yeah, we didn't complete this thing because of time. Yes, please.
I was hoping about, I actually wanted to mention something about manipulating, because the reason why you talk about, actually people should appreciate the difference between a block element and an inline element. And appreciate that there is also an, what is it? The one in between there, inline block. Is it? They call it inline block? In between there. So you may find that maybe somewhere you've used a block element, and you'd like it to behave in a way of maybe to behave like a span. Then you should be in position to change, like just like the way you say display flex, you should be able to affect the way it consumes the space on the DOM. So it's very important we also appreciate that, because for block elements, they'll consume the entire width of the DOM or the web page, the viewport. Whereas in inline elements, just like a span, will not, or an anchor tag. That is the reason why they're able to be placed within other tags, but it will be quite difficult to do a block, especially when you want to put them on the same line.
Yeah,
I hope that first.
Hope you got it. I'll go lastly to this. Sorry, I don't know, but I don't know how time is running. Sorry, members, we get endless or anything from front-end mentor, but I would encourage members to go there. I'm showing you one challenge. We might not code it together. You go back, do that challenge, have this account for testing. Yeah, it is a simple challenge, but I just want to show you how important the skills we have learned are. You see, most members be like, maybe to show me already to add to money, or like, you might brush them off, not knowing how important they were. Yeah, you see this image.
Pamba, please go back to the way you made the selection from the skill level.
Oh yeah, I did this filter by.
Oh, you went to by, okay.
Yeah, so when you filter, you do free plus. So me, when I was doing them, I told myself, I want 2 from newbie, 2 from junior, 2 from mediate. So I did at least 2 projects from each section to see where my levels were. So I did this, I did this, I did this. You people have started, I did this. You have started CSS, you have started even JIT and you have not collaborated. I created this and we collaborated on it as a team. I asked members how many want to contribute to it. Then a few members contributed and we jumped to it. I designed the header. I have that project here. We collaborated with like a few people on it. So the skills they teach you, we may not come and push you. Please go through Git, use it like this. Get that project, put it there. I remember that project. Let me go to my projects. Yeah, I remember we collaborated on it. You will see the collaborators. How was it called? How was it called? It had many collaborators. Oh, was it this? Does anyone see any collaborators on this? Yeah. If it has issues, then Fred was like, host it, blah, blah. So collaborators. So you as a team, you see, these people contributed to it. This one did, this one did, this one did. Yeah, I also did the main part. Then, I invited Mr. Roland just to overlook us if we are doing the same thing. So get a project, put it there, say people jump on this project and, you learn collaborating because you are expecting to do the collaboration when you reach the project time. No, please do the collaborations now. Yes, we might not push you, but if you learn a skill as a person, put it into good use. So I jumped onto that. I told people, please, who wants to contribute? I did a good readme, so it helped me learn how to write a readme file, like a description. So it was this project, I described it, I told them how to install, I told them how to use, I asked them how to contribute. So they learned how, it helped me learn a lot. So by the time, I was a team lead. So by the time I was doing the team bit, like setting up the project for the team, I already had the skills around the thing because I already knew how things work out. Yeah, but that was not the lesson for today. The lesson is kweberera. If you are waiting for the TAs for you, Mr. Roland to come on board, tell you, please collaborate, please practice Git. Git is by practice. Find projects as made a standalone, but at least practice them. So we shall do this in your free time, but yeah, I'm just giving you tips of how these things can be pulled off from the skills we have learned. So if I was pulling off this, I want to use the flex bit of it. I would say where it is wrapped, sorry, I'll do undo, then I'll do shapes. I'll do where it is wrapped would be a container. Then within that container, I have a div of the image. Then within, then there I also have another div of this. This is how I pulled it off. Yes, you might pull it off in another way. You might leave it as, the default blocks the way they be, but I use this because it is easier. Take an example. They twist something little. For example, they say on larger devices, this content should be here. So you just undo, then do this. and choose this and put here. So within here is content. So I've used the same skill, but I've put this content here. But then I change one single line. Flex direction, this is row. Flex direction, column. This will collapse and come at the bottom when the devices change. So I'm showing you the power of flex. I'm showing you the power of you thinking before you start coding. You'll get something that, you know, you'll be ready, like you before you start coding, you know the method that you'll be using. So in your work previously, you shall undo all the changes and we shall find another project. Guys, please note I can't see your screens, I can't do what, so we shall find this project. When you look at this project, it is the same thing that we have been doing. But Famba, no, this has, yes, it is the same thing. Say this entire thing is the mother container. It has, now what properties does it have that you don't know? Radius. Then within that mother container, we have this content, which is in a div. Then we have this other content, which is just an image. So before you begin coding, you already know. My point is not about the designs, about telling you how to apply CSS. You already know the things, but how do you put them to life? So you'll see they will show you why you choose Flex, because here they will show you that on a smaller device, it should collapse like this. The image should come up, then the content should be down. So a single line of code changes that. So before you begin coding, know what method you'll be using, know what, like that's the lesson of today. That was the lesson of today, planning your documents before you begin on them, troubleshooting, errors. You give those containers or those, you know, shapes, those divs, those sections, anything that you'll be using, color or borders, as you know, he has been doing, to give them shape, to see if what you are applying is really applying. Someone is doing the changes and is not seeing the changes. So you end up writing awkward changes. You'll find someone with awkward figures there and you're like, how did this person put all this, you know, maybe pixels? Yeah, you might not sit there and then till maybe that thing is not responsive or not working as intended on another device due to the number of pixels you gave it, and maybe they were not visible on your device and maybe on the other device they will take effect. You see someone on the phone has to scroll this way to find, because you had given it pixels that were going till, you know. So yeah, end of today's lesson, unless you have questions, but what you have learned is a lot. You remember what they gave you? They told you, please put here your picture, put here your content, your brief introduction, like put a brief profile about you besides your picture. This is the same thing. Like there's no layout out there that is totally new that won't apply within the technologies that you have learned or you are using. But the best way you put them to use is you getting your hands dirty, get front-end mentor, do those projects. Yes, even if they are not forced, it is for your benefit. You learn how to set up GitHub, because you'll be pushing these projects to GitHub. You learn how to host them. The challenges you get within will help you learn a lot. End of today's lesson. I'll be clear all. Unless you have questions for me. Yes, please. Someone was saying, Mr. Famba. Yes, please.
Now, for me, I have a challenge on GitHub.
Yes, please.
It's not related to this. There is that assignment we're given of handing in our profiles. And one of the particulars says we must create a section that shows our portfolios, and I've still failed to learn how to create a section. I've watched videos and they're all not clear about how to create sections. Some of them are even telling me that I have to write a README, and I'm not sure of how to create a README on GitHub.
Okay, it uses something called Markdown. I'll take you off the recording here. Unless we have questions around here, we can close it off. Sorry for taking much of your time. You can close it off. Then those that have personal issues that may not be related to this can stay on the call. But officially, this class is closed. Hope you learned something. Yes, it is. However small it is, our major thing wasn't studying it, was getting those concepts. However much it came out well, and it came out the way we wanted it. Any questions around this? Okay. Can we close by at least someone giving,
If I may say something, Fambai.
Yes, please.
When from basically what we want to become, it is very, very much important that we make Google our friend, as they call it, improving the Googling skills. You may find that most of the questions that some of us do have, solutions do exist out there, maybe on Stack Overflow or other platforms. So we should also get into, I just want to encourage guys to get into the habit of Googling. What some of those answers do exist out there.
Yes.
Like, let's say, creating things and all that, rather than getting stuck, because you may get stuck coping. You need to get someone to help you. Yet the solution lies there on Google. Someone has ever worked on that particular issue. They have a Medium blog somewhere which is actually explaining how to overcome such a problem. So reading must be one of some things we have to embrace, because as you can see, any simple project will have many moving parts, and you may reach a point whereby you don't know something, whereby you just have to Google and read about it and then come back and then apply the knowledge you've discovered and move on.
Yeah, before I actually end the class, I'll base on what he has said. Sorry, but okay, officially the class is closed. People can leave, people can stay. But officially the class is closed. Thank you for your coming. We wanted someone to give a word of applause. So, at least I wanted to hear from you or any member to see the benefit of the class, if they gained anything. You didn't speak anything. No, you were like, I have not too many. So anyone randomly, anyone that feels, please, thanks for the lesson, I've learned something. This person should not be Arthur. Arthur has been contributing a lot, and Arthur, the good thing, knows much of the things. And what I love from him is like me. I also kept attending classes, however much I knew some bits, I could Google, I could do what, but I hosted those dev nights, I hosted, those things because I wanted to learn more from colleagues. Or, you just keep down on earth and keep learning. So he keeps coming, however much he knows, but he keeps coming. Maybe please someone unmute and say something. If you don't, Sibalawe Kampala.
Hello.
Sibalawe Kampala.
Maybe actually when it comes to collaborating on a project, because it's very, very important that we must start working. You don't necessarily need to say that I'm afraid of this, because all of us here are learners. Much as we could be on different skill levels, we're all learners. This is the best place basically to overcome that phobia of speaking, because you can imagine when you're on a coding interview and people are looking at you right there on a board. So if you've mastered that, being able to speak and contributing it, everything will become easier. You won't suffer any issues of confidence, because confidence can actually let you down during an interview, just the mere fact that you can't necessarily speak. So I encourage you to basically speak. I'm a vocal person, but it is good to speak every once in a while, rather than stay at the back and hoping maybe Famba touches a subject you aren't familiar with, instead of being able to point it out.
Kampala. Okay, so I'll stop recording, I'll stop sharing. But yeah, thanks. However much, I don't know whether I've been teaching an active class. I see only Raymond and Douglas that are on. Others are quiet. I don't know whether they are even there. Someone might have logged in and left there until it is Famba things. BBA. Okay, by thumbs up or anything to show that you are at least active in the class.
Well,
Raymond.
Mr. Famba, for me, I'm very grateful for this. Thank you for sparing your time to come and help. You've given a very helpful hand. Personally, just like Arthur said, knowing something is not enough. There's always something new to learn from someone. I had learned, I had always known how to use these elements, but then I had always struggled with designing something. Once the design fails me, I just lose the interest of doing the code, and then that's how I leave it. But now, maybe with this new information that I've gotten, like dividing the content into sub elements and knowing when to do what and what to do, maybe it's going to help me, because my biggest challenge has always been design like that. Because even on the personal portfolio project, it's a my biggest problem was coming up with an interface, like the design of the outlook of the project. So yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage you to also do much of Googling. If you were on our class, the one I did on Saturday, I kept Googling things, even when I knew what they do. So when I reached a topic of maybe flex, you find me going to Google and saying Flexbox. And maybe you'll be like, many things. He knows, but at least Googling is part of us, and we are not going to do away with Googling. So if you have challenges, please Google them out. And actually, as to my main point, as to why I told you people, you should know, or you should, think of what you are going to use before even you use it, is one, you will know which area to Google around. So if Flexbox is giving you issues, you do Flexbox, then you see the different properties that it has, then you can play around with it. Maybe you know the property, but you had forgotten how to apply it. So content out there is good. I'll stop sharing, I'll stop recording, sorry, and share, I'll keep sharing just to give that person a hint that wanted the rest on third day. Thanks for, for being part of us.
Famba.
Yes, please.
Famba. Hello.
I hear someone.
On behalf of everyone, I'm the one talking.
Yes.
I'm saying on behalf of everyone, I'd like to appreciate you for taking the time and your knowledge to share with us. We really appreciate.
Okay. Sorry to those that were here that felt bored. Yeah, end of class. To the person that was asking, where they stop recording from, I'll pause it.